The fighting on the trading station was almost over. The raiders all but mopped up and their shuttles under interdiction when Chirik found Perik. She immediately went into concerned spouse mode, literally fluttering around her husband like the avian she was, almost clucking over the fact that the feathers over one side of his face had been scorched away.
What happened?
She asked solicitously.
Were you in the defense teams? I heard that the fighting was vicious there.
No, sweetling,
He said hollowly.
I was in the lower decks. There were no defense teams there.
Her wattles drew up in confusion.
But I heard that the raider casualties on the lower decks were total. They're still carrying bodies out even now. What weapons were you using on them? How did you kill them so gruesomely?
It wasn't me, Cheer.
His voice was tired.
There was someone else there. One of my workmates. A mechanic named Edgar Houston. He saved my life. Killed all the raiders.
But how?
She cried.
If he was not in the defense forces, how did he prevail? How did he destroy them so utterly?
Perik took a deep breath.
Alright, I'll tell you. Before I do, I want you to understand something. It's that humans are utterly insane. All the way back in their history, they've been stark raving mad. And I think in my hearts that it has got to have something to do with their obsession with fire.
Fire?
She looked at his scorched feathers again.
Why are they fascinated with fire?
Well, their planet, basically.
He explained.
It keeps trying to kill them. Cold weather, animals too fast to catch easily, food too tough or too unhealthy to eat without being cooked. Well, there's dozens of reasons. So from the beginning, the whole race has deified fire. So when they figured out ways to make fire do more and go further, they grabbed hold of it with both manipulators.
Chirik shivered. She wasn't sure she liked where this story was going. Her race, like many others, had tamed fire long ago, but only to ensure that it did not break out unexpectedly and burn nests and fledglings. Doing more with fire had never really occurred to them. But Perik seemed to need to keep talking, so she made an encouraging motion.
Yes?
The history of human warfare is rife with the use and misuse of fire.
He said.
And explosives, usually containing fire. Crude bombs that exploded when fire came in contact with it. Weapons that used fire to propel metal pellets out of tubes at the speed of sound. They had these weapons consisting of tanks filled with flammable liquid and a squirt nozzle. They would literally throw fire at their enemies.
This was too much to believe. Chirik felt her nictitating membranes flash over her eyes as she clutched her manipulators together.
Surely nobody would invent a weapon so barbaric.
Humans did,
Perik said bluntly. He rubbed his manipulator carefully over his face. Blackened bits of feather drifted to the deck plates.
A great honor, a prize that was meant to embody peace, was named after an inventor, after he had invented a more effective explosive. They went into space by packing these great tall tubes, taller than all but the world tree, with explosives. And they set them off while sitting on top. There is literally a human saying, something to the effect of, "There is no problem that cannot be solved with the liberal application of high explosive." They're insane. There can be no other explanation.
I believe you. I believe you.
Chirik said soothingly.
But this Edgar Houston?
She paused after struggling with the name.
He could not have brought any of these weapons on board the station, could he? None of these bombs or metal pellet fire weapons or throwers of flame.
This time, Perik's laugh had a tinge of hysterical cackle to it.
He didn't need them. We were in the shuttle bay when the alarm first went off. He had me go and get some hand cleaner solution. It's a clear gel. I thought he was gonna make the floor slippery so they would lose their footing, but I was wrong. When I got back, he had just finished decanting high oxide fuel into some glass bottles. He added that, plugged the mouths of the bottles with oily rags, and he shook 'em hard. Then he lit the rags with this small metal fire lighter that he kept on him all the time. And when the raiders came in view, he told me to get ready to run. Then he threw the bottles at the raiders. They broke, of course. The bottles, not the raiders. The liquid covered them, and the flaming rags fell into the liquid.
He shuddered.
Never have I seen a sapient burning to death before.
But could they not brush the fire out?
She asked, puzzled.
Oh, they tried,
He assured her.
but the hand cleanser had made the liquid stick to them. And by that time, their weapons started firing off. We were out of range, but they weren't.
That's horrible.
She caressed his face.
But how did that burn your feathers?
Oh, that didn't happen then.
He closed his eyes for a moment.
There was a second bunch of raiders. They heard what happened to their comrades and they were looking for blood. They had us trapped in the cafeteria. This was after he found some cleaning products in the closet. He mixed them in a bottle and threw them into a group of raiders. There was no flame, but there was a lot of explosion.
Was that when you lost your feathers?
Chirik was beginning to wonder how her husband had survived so much fire, so many explosions.
No, like I said, that was the cafeteria. 2 big bunches of them were coming in from different directions. He lit his fire lighter and put it in the middle of the floor. A tiny flame, barely noticeable. I wondered if he was trying to distract them by setting off the fire sensors. I should have known better. But even when he grabbed a large bag from the food stores, I had no idea what he intended. He just ordered me back into the storeroom with the instruction to slam the door shut once he was inside.
He looked at the floor.
I had no idea what he intended.
She put her manipulator on his head, running her digits through what remained of his crest.
We don't have to talk about this now.
No,
He said.
I want to.
He took a deep breath.
Edgar opened the bag and waited behind the food counter, crouched down. I had one eye on the door to the storeroom, and the raiders came in. They saw the metal fire lighter and cautiously advanced, watching it carefully. But there were no fuses, no piles of explosive, just the fire lighter and the tiny flame. No danger at all.
He shuddered deeply.
They were fools. I was a fool. Edgar is insane.
What happened?
Chirik didn't want to ask, but she did anyway.
When their attention was transfixed, Edgar stood up with the bag over his head and he shouted, "Looking for me?" He threw the bag. It burst open, sending a huge white cloud everywhere. Then he dived towards the storeroom door. They were too surprised to shoot. Then it reached the flame. Just as I was slamming the door shut,
He closed his eyes, breathing in and out. In and out.
Edgar later told me that it was called a flower bomb. It killed every raider and burned every feather off the side of my face, and deafened both of us for about 10 minutes.
So that was what shook the deck plate so badly.
Chirik wanted to cringe in horrified fascination.
Edgar did that. Is he some kind of Terran explosive genius to make the clinging fire and exploding flower?
For sure, she would be keeping a closer eye on the flower in her own domicile.
No. And that's the worst part.
He rubbed his beak.
He told me that the humans have been using that sort of thing for hundreds of years, since long before they came into space. He says that if he had time, he could have whipped up something a lot nastier, and I believe him.
Chirik got her manipulator under Perix and started steering him away.
I'm just glad you're alive. Come on back to the hab. I'll get you cleaned up.
Thank you. I think I need it.
Perix didn't resist.
I'm glad he was there, but I still think he's utterly insane.
Me too, beloved. Me too.